Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm joined today by the one, the only, the genius of math, the genius of Raid. We've got Saphira. How you doing, man?
God, that's a bit of to follow, isn't it? The genius of Raid. Wow, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This is my only limited access to the test server, I guess.
Yes.
Technically, we're not breaking any rules here. I hope.
Saf's on the test server. I think I'm allowed to do this. It's potential to ban me, but yeah.
It's
Please, Raid, let Saf have the test server. Anyway,
free bug fixing. I promise. Any QA, and if you want to like assign me some tickets, I'm happy to do it. Just let me in, please. Let me in. Anyway.
Let him in. Free the Saf. So what we're going to do today, a few people noticed it, and I didn't even mean to show it, by the way, but a few people noticed on my Noble video that there was a new section on the dungeon screen. I was literally going in to do a damage test. We were asked, please don't show this yet. I didn't mean to, but I accidentally did show this screen. And I noticed a few Facebook posts like, did anyone see this? And then there's a screenshot of my face right next to this dungeon icon. So we're going to talk about this. I guess before we do, it's not unusual for Raid to have icons on a map for a while and for it to mean nothing.
Yep.
So, for example, we've had the Great Void there for a long time. We're expecting a third clan boss at some point in the future. But generally, for stuff like this, it's like there's a 6-month cycle for major content in Raid. And I'd imagine something like a new clan boss, similar to Hydra, similar to the Siege, all that type of stuff. I think it will be one of their big 6-monthly drops. So this is a bit different. But I don't know. What's your view? Are you thinking that next patch, this dungeon is in-game? The way it's been laid out like that.
Normally, any sort of big content release, any sort of like thing, like we would have to expect a what's next video. Now, the patch is probably like depending on when this comes out in a few days, like it's coming out Thursday, because it'll come out after CBC, right? That's when we normally get these patch updates, and I think that's generally when we can expect it to occur. Now, most interestingly, like I think what's happened lately is the fusion is disconnected from the patch, which was kind of as a result from Siege. So the only reason why I mention that is, well, it does make sense if there's new content dropping that they're going to drop it when there's not a fusion or some sort of in-game activity going on. But I don't know if this is just going to be it depends on how big a feature it is, because obviously if it's a brand new dungeon with brand new game features or something that's going to affect our champions in some way, I would have expected to hear more noise about
hype,
it.
Yeah, and we've asked in content creator chat, so is there any info about this? And all we've been told is you will get some information quite soon. And it does say, so I don't know if that means this week. I don't know if that means, for next patch, or it does say coming soon. And we've seen soon being banded around as a bit of a meme in the past, but coming soon is not what we see above,
the void,
things like the clan boss and when we had it in arena and that type of stuff. But we have seen it before when it was a new faction coming through and there was like a coming soon when they lit it up type of thing. So we've seen it before, but it's a while ago. And in fairness for these, that was like a couple of month lead time before it actually dropped.
And I think the biggest difference here is when you look at the clan boss and the faction wars map, I feel like they've added them in because it would look weird if you didn't have something there. Like if you go back to the clan boss one, like you can clearly see like if you look at the backdrop instead of the tiles, you can see how they've like tied the area with the actual floor of the map. So when they updated it for Hydra, I guess they would have thought, well, if we don't put anything there, it's going to look weird that we've got like 2 sections for something and then nothing for the third, which makes sense. Whereas this new one, well, there's no real need to do that. If anything, it kind of looks a bit out of place.
It looks like it's been wedged in. Like,
exactly.
It's like, what are we going to do? We don't really want to change this map that we've had since the dawn of time. And obviously, I don't know. Do you remember? Did they add stuff in over here? Did they extend the map out, or was it already there? No. Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure it was already there. They just stuck them in. Obviously, as well, like
because this was a void tower. That was always.
It's always the purple book tower that everyone keeps talking about.
Yeah.
That never happened and probably never will. I mean, sometimes I have been sitting here for like last week. I spent about 20 minutes kind of like divining whether or not the actual like building object could give us a hint of what we're going to get.
Is there a clue with these like 3?
Yeah,
almost,
but
I don't know.
I think sometimes you can stare at something a lot and then realize that it's just coincidence, or someone probably just designed the tower.
Would you have actually understood any of what was going on behind any of these? Maybe with the exception of dragon. I don't know that you could decipher any of this other stuff. No. So I guess it comes back to then, what do we think we need in the game as a dungeon? And it is kind of put into an area where this is all gear. This section here is all gear, and then you've got kind of like ascension of weapons and stuff on the right. You've got affinity dungeons. They are kind of laid out in a place that makes some sense. Iron Twin's out on its own. So, I mean, it's very close to the Minnow, and it's also within the mix of gear dungeons. So I guess my question to you first, do you think it's possible this is just a new gear dungeon?
Yes. I think what has proven to be a bit of an issue lately is the gear dungeon gear sets have been overwhelmed and overshadowed by variable sets.
Yes.
And whilst those variable sets are great to acquire from like limited time content or sort of structured content, in the sense that it's like, okay, well, you get it from Hydra, you only get 1 chest per week. You get it from Centranos, you only get a certain amount of rewards per month. I think maybe we're going to see something like either a dungeon variable set farmable. Maybe it will even be something that you could connect with other dungeon sets. It's kind of hard to know, like, where do you get you power creep and add a new set? And I feel like they could just add a new variable set, or they could just make it so that there's a dungeon where you can farm these other variable sets. I'm less convinced of that, because normally they like to keep sets to a specific source location.
Yeah,
and nice.
Actually, the reason it would be nice, I think the reason they do that is it's kind of like it keeps people playing multiple types of content, right? So, Doom Tower, for me now as a later game player, I only really like rotation 3 of Doom Tower in terms of actually actively trying to farm stuff. And I think that I have to wait 3 months for that to come around. Then I'm trying to race to the top as quick as I can so I can get some new lethal gear. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
And, you've obviously got some decent drops that come out of the Hydra. You've got some decent drops now in Siege and
all the sets
Curse City as well, honestly. Yeah. Like, this is where you farm gear nowadays, rather than farming dungeons.
100%. With the exception of maybe like speed, probably still something you would farm in Dragon Slayer. Like, a lot of people will prefer to substitute speed with perception gear these days, but I still think like there's a value in farming some speed. And obviously Ice Golem has all the really good Hydra sets like Cursed, Provoke, Retaliation. So there are some sets that are better than variable sets, but you're right. For any late game player, you're going to go hunting for your best gear sets in Siege mode. And
I think it's not just late game players though. Like, I think when I played the free to play challenge, I didn't farm dungeons at all, and my gear all came from other areas of the game. So it wasn't just, you would need some speed gear, you might need a bit of lifesteal gear, but honestly, very few sets for my free-to-play challenge over, how long did we play it? Was it like 3 months?
3 months.
3 months.
The thing is, perception is such a strong set to pull these days. Yes. It kind of replaces both accuracy and speed because it's just easier to get. And that's the biggest factor, I think. And actually, as we're talking about it, I think do you know what the biggest thing they could do? And I would love they do this. Create a dungeon where we can get some sort of currency that allows us to upgrade rank 5 to rank 6. That would be phenomenal, because the biggest problem that Playroom have right now is they have an obsession with giving us rank 5 gear. Yeah, even if you go to like Amius Hard, the amount of times I've done Amius Hard mode, and it's like 70% is 5-star gear, and you're sitting there thinking, I've just beaten the hardest boss in the game, and it's given me stuff that I would have probably earned within like a month or 2 of me playing the game in terms of quality of tier. It's just painful. So having something that I don't know whether it like allows us to upgrade the rank to rank 6 or something like that could be quite cool. I don't know how that you would make that a farmable dungeon though.
And it would also be quite difficult. So if I think about some of my best, I still equip a few bits of 5-star gear, but it's not a lot. But if I think about some of my best,
it's normally like the quad rolls, right?
Is it Sifi?
She's got a 5-star glove there, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've got someone who's got a really fast 5-star. I might be, no, I can't remember. Anyway, I've got someone who had a really fast 5-star piece on. It's on my main account rather than
A1.
It's on my main account rather than my test server account. That's why I've done some re-gearing over the weekend.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, this one here.
There
So
it is.
I basically got like a quad roll speed piece on a supersonic item, and I was able to get the 3-set supersonic on her, so I got the 10% extra speed. And
It's
if I
the
could
fastest set in
upgrade
the
this
game.
to 6-star, like,
Oh.
you know, that would be, well, that would be unheard of on my account, and I've played the game for 5 years. I don't have a quad roll speed piece on a speed set. So if I could do it, it'd be massive. But then what do you do here? Do you...
Well, this is a question. Do you just upgrade the primary stat, which sometimes can be sufficient, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, I've got this really good, like, 5-star glove that's got, crit damage, but you're always sitting there going, well, okay, it's great. It's got an extra 5 or 10 speed than anything else, but it loses that 15% crit damage and then the Ascension 7%. So you're paying a 21% crit damage penalty because it's simply just not 6-star. It's even to the extreme that I would say that anything 5-star epic or below is worse than a 6-star rare. Just simply worse.
Yeah,
because the
definitely.
primary
Yeah,
stat,
can be. Yeah, it can be.
And I remember when the Siege mode came out, the first thing you called out with the Siege rewards was, why are you giving us 5-star gear? 5-star mythical is worse than 6-star legendary. And they listened because they got rid of the 5-star gear. But there seems to be like this weird obsession that, the ultra end game has it.
You take finishing gold 5, we're still now 5 years on, gold 5 people get a whole bunch of 5-star crap gear. It's just so that would actually be a reasonable thing. I don't know how easy it would be to implement. The other thing we talked about since I've played the game is, should there be somewhere to farm books to event, not books, but pages to farm into a book? I'd imagine that's probably where the speculation is going to go. I feel like, or maybe it is time to do it. This game's kind of on this curve of, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever do it.
You don't think they'll do it? No.
I think they've been very vocal about it in the past. They're never going to add book dungeons, and I don't think. I mean, then again, they said they would never add epic empowerment. They did, but I just don't think. The thing is, they give quite a lot out, and I know that a lot of players will say, "Oh, they don't give me enough legendary books." I mean, if you do the training events and you actually play the game, like I obviously end up normally with a person inside a month. I have enough that I can book a couple of legendaries normally. So, and I'm not buying books. To be honest, I think I bought one set of books once.
Are you buying energy to achieve that, or do you think you can just do it? Just do it with your natural day.
You could just do the training events. Yeah, I really do. Like, personally, for me, I really do the training events now because I just cannot stand doing them. Like, I have no champions to train. Like, there's only so many champions in sort of this game you can actually train before you run out of things to do. And I know
especially for us, longer term players. Yeah,
I know many players literally have just like vaults full of like 5- and 6-star food because they have nothing better to do with it. So
well, the other thing here is, potentially. This is a long shot, but it's potentially grouped alongside Minnow. And one of the biggest call-outs for players are like, Minnow is just frustrating. They don't even consider it a dungeon when I'm doing dungeon divers. And, that's generally an area that people would like an improvement on. But the thing is, I just feel like if they were going to make a change to Minnow, they just extend it to stage 20 and they allow you to farm quicker. So if there was a correlation to it, is there anything that could enhance, that kind of like Minotaur farm or the Mastery farm?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem that I have at the moment is I don't know how much more power you can give a champion before it just becomes unbearable. You've seen now, once you get a 6-star +4 blessing to wait, like there's very few things can stand against the power of that.
I think that would be horrendous for the game if it's another way to just
empower
power creep what's already there. I honestly do. I think they've stretched it as far as you can stretch it in terms of just throwing more stats up.
Well, I mean, just look at Mikage. Mikage is a great example there, where it's like, okay, it's not even empowered, and she's not even got a banner, but I'd imagine she's got 400 accuracy. She doesn't even have a banner on. It's because it's just pure stat gain, and she's not in the best gear or anything, but she's rocking 291. I even have a problem using my Teox with my team because I've got a 4-star Mikage, and she just gets so much crit damage from the blessing that I'm trying to reduce her damage down. I actually have to nerf her crit damage because otherwise she just becomes the primary target because of the power of stats. So unless they're going to do some sort of second tier of masteries that don't necessarily power creep you in terms of stats, because I think that's the problem. They've power crept stats. They haven't really power crept
they power crept stats hard.
It's crazy how many stats you can get now in the game with Ascension, with like Artifact Ascension, with Awakening, I don't think you can add a third tier of stat gain, because like already with the area bonuses, it's obnoxious. So if they added like a second form of mastery tree that could manipulate, maybe like
almost like a kind of like capstone mastery just coming on.
Or some sort of like multipliers that don't necessarily directly lead to like huge power creep, then that could be quite cool and interesting depending on what you do. So it could be like an evolution of the mastery system, which would make sense. Why it wouldn't then be in Minotaur? Because you're right. Otherwise, if it was just a case of making masteries more efficient, they would just do what they did to potion keeps and extend it to level 20.
Just extend it, yeah, definitely. And it does feel like if it's not anything to do with Minnow, and I think it's probably not, but I was just kind of like saying it does feel like they're a bit grouped, you know, in the way like this feels like it's grouped.
Separate,
These are grouped, and they always go this kind of like diagonal for grouping.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I might just be a long shot, but if it's not that, then it feels like it has to be a dungeon with gear, because like you say, the game's not really ready for a new mechanic. And I couldn't even think what it would be. What is there left to power creep? Maybe some people actually, if you've got ideas of what you've seen in other games, then that would be interesting to know. Because if they were going to do something huge, let's say they threw a roguelike into the game,
it wouldn't be this. It would be
I just can't imagine it would be here. It would be.
It would actually be like a chapter place.
Yeah, a whole new thing, wouldn't it? Surely.
Yeah. I mean, I will say we need more, and this is what we can have a look at like what we need more of, and I would say we need more accessibility to the variable sets for sure. That like Slayer sets only appearing in a Forge Pass that you can only get the accessories in that is disastrous. Things like getting access to Merciless accessories, Supersonic accessories, even like this new Feral set. I don't think they're ever going to be able to scale Feral rewards enough in Siege mode for it to exclusively stay in Siege mode. It's not possible because of the nature of the way that they've set up Siege. Like you need like 100 pieces before you could arguably have a good build. Yeah. Because I'm basing this off how many Forge Passes I've bought Slayer, or how many Forge Passes I've bought Defiant, and how many champions I've actually put into a good Slayer. And I've bought every single Slayer pass that has come out. And I only have like 2 champions that I can make a good set of Slayer.
Same, exactly the same as that. And
impossible.
That could be an interesting one. So if this was, let's say this was either a way to get Forge Pass gear, or if this is grouping with Spider and it's actually a second way to get accessories which are not standard accessories, and accessories for sets. There's now a lot of sets that have got these kind of like that you can basically push to 9 pieces. That could be quite interesting as well.
Yes. I think if you make a dungeon which it had maybe all the variable sets in there, I can't imagine they'll do that because they want to keep like Hydra ones to Hydra.
Yeah, and I can understand they do,
available.
The Forge Passes don't come along nearly enough if you're it's a bit like Doomtower, honestly. If you just want lethal gear, you got to wait 3 months. You can farm it 4 times a year. That's not great. Similarly, like you say, if you want Slayer gear, you want Supersonic gear, you have to wait for that Forge Pass to come around. And honestly, for me personally, I don't buy at least half of the Forge Passes now because I'm not that fussed about those gear sets. And that's not great from a business point of view either. So
maybe they've seen the analytics. I know the last Forge Pass was different because it's the first one they've combined, right? They had Defiant and Righteous. And those sets are quite good, but they're not variable sets. And I think that's the problem now. When you power creep a game and you add these different types of sets, you've basically undermined the value of Perception even now with this new Feral set. Why would you want Perception when 2 pieces of Feral basically give you the same value of Perception, and it builds you up towards the path of being able to have 4 pieces and 6 pieces? Like I can literally put a ring and an amulet in Feral and it'll be the same value as a Perception set. Yeah. And if you actually stack it all out, it's stronger than a Perception set because you get 3 effects. So when you power creep these variable sets, what you end up doing is creating disinterest in like what used to be quite good, because Defiant is still one of the best 2-piece sets in the game. Flat damage reduction with defense is great, but you're like, well, I could go 2-piece Defiant, but I can also just go like 9-piece Supersonic or 9-piece Protection.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And whenever you have an option, there's always a better option for some of these sets these days. I think the Forge Passes were always meant to be for mid-game players, in my opinion. Like that's the target market for them.
But then you've got like Bolster, which is so strong.
Well, it was, and then they added Narcissus, and then Bolster has become useless.
Outside of PvP, though, Bolster is still extremely strong. Like
Sintranos Bolster's MVP. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people would argue stun set. Actually, it's Bolster because the amount of times that you just go, I'll just keep adding more Bolster sets, and that's how you get past the stage because, you know, Affinity's a problem. You've also got things like you can't trust it, where Bolster's 100% reliable. So I found that when I'm struggling, another set of Bolster is the answer in Sintranos, in some of those really horrible, like epic only magic negative affinity nonsense that they throw at you, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, Bolster and as well, Slayer Forge passes are obnoxiously strong, like so strong. Like I almost don't even think about them when they come in. I just buy it, especially Surge.
100% buy. Yeah.
Even though Slayer is still a bit not doing. But then,
so if that was the case, like if that is, you know, they look at analytics. So if they are the sets where, in terms of analytics, people still buy them, that seems unlikely. We don't normally get the kind of like, oh, we'll put them in here because people like them so much. It feels more likely this is going to be those other sets that are not bought all the time, and then they leave the kind of Bolster and, you know, the
potentially. I would say
stuff on rotation.
Based on its position, I would 100% expect it to be either some sort of champion evolution or some sort of like accessory evolution. I think that's possibly where they're going to go. The other thing I was going to say is I think one thing we absolutely lack a lot of at the moment, which is not really going to make sense here, is glyphs. I feel like we need more places to farm glyphs.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah, that is true.
Because you can basically farm a whole week's worth of faction wars, and you might get like a handful of speed glyphs, which is obviously super valuable. And I know a lot of end game players, especially like the arena players, will almost like they're crying out for glyphs because obviously they're min-maxing a lot more aggressively than say the average player. Like I've got a fair amount of glyphs, but I know a lot of end game players don't. So having more opportunities to farm glyphs, I think, would be a valuable thing. Even if it, like, to me, it would make more sense if you just make a hard mode faction wars. But
yeah.
And the final thing I would say, better mythical drop rates. Because if Marius Missions told us anything, is mythical drop rates.
Oh wow, I'm stuck on one. Find boots that have got speed on that are mythical. I don't know how much energy I've thrown into that one because I've kind of like tuned back into collecting the champions again for these quests, and I'm enjoying it again. That side of it I stopped doing for a long time, and I'm kind of back on it. I actually need to do that mythical boot, which is pissing me off. I've been trying it for about a week. I don't know how much energy I've put into that. It is an insane amount of energy that I've put into that. Still no boot. And,
I got super lucky with mine. I think I got it in like.
Oh wow! I just feel like I've been on it. I've put all of my energy into trying to do it in the last week, plus converted gems into energy, and I'm like, do I understand what I'm meant to be doing here? Because how have I not got these freaking boots yet?
It should be average. I think if I remember correctly, it was like average one in, I want to say 8,000 energy. Is how long it would take you. Something like that.
I'm way over that.
I got lucky. I got it in like 40 runs, but then it took me 19,000 energy to get the 4 mythical chest plates. So that was painful. The chest plates were the worst one.
So I've still got that one to come. Yeah,
that's to come. And then you got the essence from Iron Twins, which, you know, a lot of people have noticed that when you need the essence, you get nothing on a Sunday, and then all of a sudden you've done the mission, and then Sunday is like the pot of all essence, and that's all I keep getting is essence on a Sunday now, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But better mythical drop rates for sure, because you're right. Like the missions have showcased how absolutely awful it is to farm dungeon hard mode. Like the whole point of hard mode is to get mythical artifacts. You could farm like I think it's 1 in 62 for a 6-star mythical. It's ridiculously bad for those things. Like get rid of rare, increase the mythical drop rates in hard mode. Like
is that the other option, that you could enhance an epic to a legendary to a mythical with an item?
That would be easier to scale actually if you think about it, because all you would do is you would basically randomly roll.
It's just giving it one more roll, isn't it?
That actually might be the big thing. Maybe it is going to be that, because that makes more sense, because you can just basically upgrade it and then it randomly rolls one of the 4 to upgrade its rarity. That could be quite good.
Ooh. Well, let's leave it there, because we've been chatting for 25 minutes. Let us know what you think down below. Out of any of the things we've spoken about, do any of them make sense, or do you have a different idea? Saf, thanks for coming on. Thanks for getting involved in some behind the scenes test server action for the first time.
Yes. Rub it in.
I will
Rub it in.
I will put Saf's channel's link down below as well. Go and check out Saf's content. Make sure you go and sub to Saf as well. But yeah, dude, thanks for coming on.
No worries.
Awesome. Guys, have yourself a great day, and we'll see you soon.